Happy Friday, and thank you very much for joining us here on Africa Good Morning. We are bringing you the stories making headlines across Africa. My name is Aina Raizakwea alongside Diana Master.
Good morning to you, Aina, and good morning to you, Africa. Aina, do you know what day it is today?
Sunscreen day?
Yes, exactly. Did you put on your sunscreen today?
No, not yet.
You have to.
I'll put it on.
All right, cool.
Later on during the day.
Now, sunscreen defends the skin from damaging ultraviolet rays by forming a protective barrier. Used properly, sunscreen can actually help prevent skin cancer. Exposure to the sun also damages the skin and can worsen signs of aging. So, wearing your sunscreen will also keep your skin looking younger. Don't forget to put on your sunscreen today. Here's a video on Sunscreen Day.
Let's get into our top stories this morning. 11 babies killed in Senegal hospital by a fire. 11 newborn babies died in a hospital fire in the western Senegalese city of Tivaouane, the president of the country said late on Wednesday. Just before midnight in Senegal, Macky Sall announced on Twitter that 11 infants have died in a blaze. The tragedy occurred at the Mame Aziz Hospital in the transport hub of Tivaouane and was caused by a short circuit, according to Senegalese politician Diop Sai. The city's Major Demba Diop said 3 babies were saved. According to local media, the Mame Abdoub Aziz Hospital was newly inaugurated. Health Minister Abdoulaye Sarr said on radio that the situation is very unfortunate and painful. An investigation is underway to see what happened. The tragedy in Tivaouane comes after several other incidents at public health facilities in Senegal, where there is a great disparity between urban and rural areas in healthcare service. In the northern town of Lingoure, in late April, a fire broke out at the hospital and 4 newborn babies were killed.
75 people missing, 1 dead after migrant boat sinks off Tunisia. 75 people were missing after a crowded boat of migrants sank off Tunisia on Wednesday, the International Organization for Migration said, and a security official said. As the numbers risking the dangerous crossing to Europe increase, the IOM said 24 people had been rescued from the boat, which departed from the beaches of Zawara in Libya and sank off the coast of Sfax. A Tunisian security official told Reuters that the Coast Guard had recovered a body as they continue to search for 75 others who are missing. In recent months, dozens of people have drowned off the Tunisian coast, with an increase in the frequency of attempted crossings from Tunisia and Libya towards Italy. Hundreds of thousands of people have made the perilous Mediterranean crossing in recent years. Figures from the UN High Commissioner for Refugees show that more than 123,000 migrants arrived in Italy in 2021 compared to more than 95,000 in 2020.
Gambian government plans to prosecute the ex-dictator Jammeh. The Gambian government said on Wednesday it will prosecute former dictator Yahya Jammeh for murder, rape, torture and other alleged crimes committed under his more than 20-year rule. The Ministry of Justice said it accepted all but 2 of the 265 recommendations made by a commission that probed alleged crimes committed by the state under the despotic former leader from July 1994 to January 2017. Yame is living in exile in Equatorial Guinea, which has no extradition treaty with Gambia. The government said it will prosecute all 70 alleged perpetrators named in the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission twice delayed report, including former Vice President Isato Said and members of the so-called Junglers Hit Squad.
Now, Africa Day calls for Africa to free itself from donor dependency. Since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, there has been a decrease in the inflow of donor funding from international aid organizations. At the recently concluded Trilogue Business and Society Conference hosted earlier this month in Johannesburg, it was revealed that 90% of civil society organizations were dependent on international donor funding. However, the pandemic had forced countries to look inwards and prioritize their domestic needs over international aid. One of the panelists at the conference, the chief executive of the Nelson Mandela Foundation, Selo Hatang, used the NMF as an example of how non-profits can successfully raise funding at home. According to Hatang, prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, the foundation received 80% of its funding from international donors. This had changed dramatically in the aftermath of COVID-19, with international funders now contributing only 40% of the foundation's budget. The director of the Center on African Philanthropy and Social Investment, Becky Moyo, argued that the relationship between donors and recipients of donor funding can be fraught with power imbalances.
In our next story, Pfizer offers to sell medicine at a cost to poorest countries. U.S. pharmaceutical giant Pfizer on Wednesday said it would sell its patent drugs on a not-for-profit basis to world's poorest country as part of the new initiative announced at the World Economic Forum in Davos. The time is now to begin closing this gap between people with access to the latest treatments and those going without, Chief Executive Albert Bourla told a press conference at the exclusive Swiss mountain resort gathering. The transformational commitment will increase access to Pfizer patent medicine and vaccine available in the United States and Europe, in the European Union, to nearly 1.2 billion people. Angela Hung, group president of Pfizer Biopharmaceutical, told AFP. 5 countries, Rwanda, Ghana, Malawi, Senegal and Uganda have committed to joining with a further 40 countries, 27 low-income and 18 lower-middle-income, eligible to sign bilateral agreements to participate. Developing countries experiencing 70% of the world's disease burden but receive only 15% of global health spending, leading and devastating outcomes. We'll be right back with more news from South Africa after the break.
I usually spend about $600 Namibian for a full tank, which usually lasts me the entire month because I do not drive around that much. The longest stretch I've ever gone with my car is to Kamanyap, and that was for leisure purposes. The service at the Namco service station is excellent because when you get there, you're met by employees who are always ready to cater to you. Whether it's them fueling your car, checking your tire pressure, offering to wash your windscreen, or checking your engine oil. The one thing that makes me proudly Namibian is being able to experience Namibia in all its beauty through travel.
You're watching Africa Good Morning. Getting into the second half of our top stories, we start off in South Africa, where EFF protesters march demanding France leave Africa. Hundreds of demonstrators from the South African Economic Freedom Fighters Party marched on Wednesday to the French embassy in Pretoria as the continent marked the 59th anniversary of the foundation of the Organization of African Unity. The protesters demanded that France leave Africa. It's Africa Day. We know that Africa was colonized. There's only one country on the continent that was not colonized, colonized, and that is Ethiopia. France still has its dirty little fingers deeply stuck in its former French colonies, EFF spokesperson Leanne Mathis said. Dressed in their traditional red t-shirts and caps, the political activists carried placards reading "France must pay reparations for its colonial crimes." The party leader Julius Malema urged France to exit the economic, political, cultural and military affairs of the continent. French colonialism in the African continent continues to be the most brutal, cruel and devilish form of colonialism in the African continent, he said.
In our next story, Attorney General determined to stop abuses in protected zone. This is according to AIM report, and this story comes from Mozambique. The Mozambican Attorney General Beatrice Buchili says Mozambique must not continue to register illegal constructions in totally or partially protected zones, some of them with licenses granted by the relevant bodies, but through schemes of corruption. We cannot continue to have situations of building in protected areas or dunes or the mangrove forest, even though they may have land use titles and licenses granted by the competent bodies, often obtained through corruption in clear violation of our law, warned Buchiri. She was speaking on Monday in the southern city of Inhabane at the opening of a meeting of the Coordinating Council of the Public Prosecutor's Office. Buchiri stressed that the consequences of illegal constructions include loss of human lives and of infrastructure, and called for a more proactive role by the public prosecutors, declared, she said.
Now coming back to South Africa, 3 poachers sentenced to 63 years in jail. South African National Parks, South African National Parks has welcomed yet more heavy sentences handed down to 3 rhino poachers by the Skukuza Regional Court on Tuesday. The 3 South African men were convicted by the court on 12 charges relating to rhino poaching. They were all sentenced to a total of 63 years imprisonment. The 3 were convicted of a first incident in 2017, which took part in the Stolznik section of the Kruger National Park when rangers followed up after hearing gunshots. Ndlovu was found hiding in the area and was promptly arrested. The rangers called in a K9 unit who led them to a backpack and 2 other suspects, Isaac Zita and Given Zita. The backpack contained 2 rhino The backpack contained 2 rhino horns and a rifle, which were linked to a carcass found nearby. The accused were granted bail for the first incident in 2017. Given Zita absconded after having been granted bail and is still being sought to face trial. Later, a backpack containing 2 rhino horns and a rifle was found, linking the 3 to a carcass found in the vicinity. KNP Managing Executive Gareth Coleman said the sentences were further evidence that collaborative work between different units was bearing fruit and sending a strong message.
Prison break at Chichiri. 5 inmates escape. At least 5 prisoners have escaped at Chichiri prison in Blantyre last night, authorities confirm. According to reports, the inmates managed to escape after they dug a cell they were in. According to reports, they have been urinating on the walls of the cell to make it soft. Prison warders are currently conducting a head count to identify and ascertain the figure of the escapees. Spokesperson of Prison Service in the southern region, Julius Mangobo, who confirmed the development, said he needed more time before saying anything. However, he was quick to point out that one of the inmates who escaped has been captured. Mangogo has therefore asked for more time to investigate the matter. This prison break comes days after a man masquerading as a police prosecutor broke out a suspect on pretext he was being taken to court.
Now, in an international story, Spain, UK say Russian influence in Africa threatens NATO security. Russia's expanding influence and activity in Africa pose a worrying threat to the security of NATO countries, along with its invasion of Ukraine, and must be addressed by the military alliance, the Spanish and British defense ministers have said. At a joint news conference on Wednesday in Madrid, Spain's Margarita Robles said the expansion of operations by the Russian state and Russian private security companies such as the Wagner Group in countries like Mali and Libya was very clear, and accused them of fomenting organized crime and terrorism terrorism. NATO cannot remain indifferent in this situation, she added. The United Kingdom's Ben Wallace in Madrid for a bilateral meeting before Spain hosts a Crunch NATO summit in late June said rising instability coupled with hunger in Africa could significantly affect Europe. He was referring to allegations by Western governments that in last year's European Union border crisis, Russia supported ally Belarus in encouraging thousands of migrants fleeing war in other parts of the world to cross towards Poland in retaliation for EU sanctions.
All right, those have been our story. Now, when we return from the break, a local shopping mall inaugurated the town's first dementia-friendly parking base. After the break.
Now, in a bid to make Swakopmund in Namibia more friendly for people living with dementia, a local shopping mall inaugurated the town's first dementia-friendly parking bays. The hope is that this initiative will also extend to other towns, centers and countries. Adam Hartman has more.
Holzhaus, an activist for people living with dementia and founder of Swakopmund-based Alzheimer Dementia Namibia, has for a long time been urging the Swakopmund municipality and local businesses to provide more dementia-friendly services and facilities in town to allow people living with dementia to enjoy more inclusivity in society. Heeding to his call, the Platsamir Waterfront Mall last Friday inaugurated 2 dementia-friendly parking bays. Hesti Langeveld of the mall's management said that she hopes this step will help make life easier for people living with dementia and also encourage other businesses and institutions to follow their example. Holzhausen said that Namibia has a long way to go to become dementia-friendly, but that the journey to that goal starts with the first step, such as the one the Platsamir Waterfront Mall has now taken. So we are here with Hesti Langeveld of the Platsamir Mall management. And Sufrani Holzhausen of Alzheimer Dementia's Namibia. And this is the first dementia-friendly parking bay in possibly Namibia.
I think I'm in Africa.
Possibly in Africa. Yeah. But this is definitely the first one in Swakopmund. Hesti, tell us, why exactly did you do this now?
Well, like Barry came to see us as well, and he said, you know, this is his vision for Swakopmund. He wants to make it, he wants people to be aware of this, because it's also a disability, but it's not a disability. If he parks on my disability sign, people can say, well, there's nothing wrong with you, but they don't know the whole story. So, yeah, he approached us, and he stated his case, and I think it was a rather good one. So we decided, well, it's good. We want to be come on board with this, and I think for us, we give ourselves out as a community center, and this is community based, so yeah, that's where it ended up.
Well, was there any specific arrangements that you had to make with the traffic department or the municipality or so?
Not for us,
okay,
because this is our property, so yeah, we just had the sign made, and then Barry asked us if we can have it. It's an initiative by them, which they did. So yeah, we are more than happy, and I think purple is the color for.
Yes, yeah, Awareness color for dementia.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, and if I may ask, you've got two parking bays.
Yes.
The reason why you picked this specific area, is there a specific reason for that?
So according to Barry, it was like when you exit the mall, it's a straight line. It's over the zebra sign, so they can just. I think it's like then they know you know, where about it is, if it needs to be described to somebody, and
it should be
for
easy
the
to
car,
find.
it should be, and the cars, it's easier for them to get out and have their own private spot than in between other cars where,
Perfect.
So,
So Franny, tell me, you know, you're involved with the centre, you very closely involved with people living with dementia. Your dad was diagnosed with dementia. What does this mean to you guys?
Okay, look, we are so ecstatic about this, you know, because, you know, we keep on fighting for rights for people living with dementia, but people don't really bother until it happens to them in the inner circle. So this is not really for us about the parking, because, you know, people ask us, you know, how can people with dementia still drive? Can they still drive, you know? And there's a stigma and discrimination. People don't understand this illness. So for us, it's a bigger picture. It's a start of awareness, first of all. And you know, when you're being diagnosed with dementia, you lose everything. Your finances, people hide you because it's a shame and you're just going crazy. You can't drive, take away your keys. So we want to promote the awareness of, you know, people can still have a good quality of life, even though they have the diagnosis. And the mall is a perfect place because you have all different kind of shops here, right? You have the pharmacy, you have the grocery, the restaurants, the banks, you know, so they can come stop here. It's usually very quiet here as well. And then we want to train the staff of the shops, you know, when do I recognize someone that looks a bit confused, to help them out, you know, take them to a quieter spot, talk to the family maybe, when they go to the restaurant. We had one of our grandfathers here last week. We came to a restaurant and the waitress just gave him a menu and walked away. He was like, I don't know how to read, I don't know what to do. He got so stressed up, you know. But if you know beforehand, you can help him, talk to him slowly, ask him, you know, certain questions, what would you like, and this is what we have. And yeah, so it's all about a dementia-friendly mall, society, community, town, country. You know, people must be aware, and also we want to promote early diagnosis of dementia. You know, so people can be helped. They can still, like my dad, he can still drive. We drive with him very often to see if he, you know, the distance, and you know, but he drives wonderfully. He still works in all parts of Namibia. So we want to support them to still do what they can do while they can do it, you know. So how this would work is people would register with us as ADN, because we are the dementia organization of Namibia. We just need a formal dementia diagnosis and then the vehicle registration number. So we will then provide him with a disc. Like you also said, you know, people don't, the first phases and stages of dementia, you don't look as if there's something wrong with you, and you know, and that is the awareness of, you know, I'm getting confused, I don't know where I am, I'm looking for my car, it's embarrassing, you know. So either someone will drive you around and they can stop you, or if you drive yourself, you know, we just provide that disc. So excited, thank you so much for this collaboration.
Great, thanks.
If love would come my way, sitting waiting for my life to start. Oh yeah, I couldn't help but wonder if I'd see a brighter day, that I would find some peace of mind, and love would fill my heart. Thanks to you, I got a reason every day to keep believing I can do.
You're watching Africa Good Morning right here on NTV. Now, the Namibian Public Workers Union and the Namibian National Teachers Union have reached a deadlock in their negotiations with the government regarding wage increases and improvements of conditions of service for more than 100,000 civil servants and thousands of teachers. Earlier this week, NAMPU Secretary General Petrus Nevongo announced that the Office of the Labour Commission has issued a certificate on unresolved disputes. With him was Secretary General of NANTU Loide Shanika. Nevongo explained that in terms of the labor law, the unions will now ask the civil servant on what actions they should take. The actions will be put on a ballot and the majority will be put in action. He explained that after 5 years without a salary increase, the government's refusal to discuss any increment is immoral and without due regard of the plight of its workers. Let's have a look.
To give them feedback on the progress made at the conciliation and for members to pronounce themselves on this matter, which indeed they did. The members and the public, and our members, NANTU members and the public, are now informed that the conciliation resumed on the 23rd of May 2020 at the hour 14:30, and with the aim, of course, to find an amicable solution. Unfortunately, this dispute, this conciliation has not yielded the intended results. As a result, the parties has reached a deadlock. This means that the union and the government has been issued with a certificate of unresolved dispute. The dispute, like I mentioned, which we have declared, is a dispute of interest. The dispute of interest, I should highlight for the benefit of the media, our members, and the public at large, that the Labour Act made provision for two types of dispute: the dispute of right and the dispute of interest. The dispute of right is where in arbitration the case is arbitrated and the arbitration award is issued, which is court judgment, and the defaulting parties ought to comply. But this one is a dispute of interest. A dispute of interest is conciliated by an appointed conciliator under the Office of the Labour Commissioner. It does not go for arbitration, it only ends with conciliation. The purpose of this conciliation is to bring the party together, to the dispute, with the aim to try and find an amicable solution to the dispute. If the party did not reach an agreement, they are issued with a certificate of unresolved dispute. In this case, yesterday, a certificate of unresolved dispute was issued because the party has failed to reach an agreement, and therefore the conciliations or the negotiation has reached a deadlock at the conciliation level. Given the above stated scenario, the parties, of course, has failed to reach an amicable solution to the stalemate. As a result, the conciliator has issued a certificate of unresolved dispute in terms of Section 8(2), subsection 15A of the Labour Act. And the conciliator remains seized with the matter because the matter has not been resolved to date. The certificate of unresolved dispute was received today. Therefore, our members and the public at large are herewith informed that NAPO and NANTU from now on will follow the procedure as set out in the law which governing this matter, of course, which is the Labor Act number 11 of 2007. To receive a certificate of unresolved disputes, procedurally and in terms of the law, you go to the members, the affected members, in this case civil servant, to decide as to what they want to do next. And whatever action they choose to take, that action is what will be taken. This action is taken through ballot. The employees will then vote to say, yes, we want to take this action, or no, we don't want to take an action. If the action, in terms of what they want to take, emerged majority vote, that will be the action the workers will take as a matter to ask, in the form of pressure, the employer to consider their demands.
Thank you, sir.
You know, Diana, a good thing to have this season is definitely sunscreen. It's so important that we protect ourselves from this harsh winter sun. And now, that being said, let's have a look at our weather.
Now, the IMF discussed the substantial geographical variations in the degree of upward, downward educational and occupational mobility across and within African countries, and the gender and rural-urban divide at its recent spring meetings. The following video insert will give us an insight into these discussions. Let's have a look.
Over the past 2 decades, the size of Africa's economy has grown more than 50%, double the world average. But how are those economic benefits shared among the population? And what does this mean for social mobility over generations? My name is Rasman Widrago. I'm an economist trying to fill in the data gaps to find out if this generation of Africans is better off than the ones before it. I come from Burkina Faso, from a family of non-educated farmers. I was sent to school and now earn a living as an economist for the IMF. And I am not alone. A lot of people are able to earn more income, go to a better school, or generally take advantage of more opportunities than their parents. This is what economists call social mobility. To measure social mobility, economists usually compare parent income data to those of their children. The problem in Africa is that those joint income data for parents and their children are missing. And there are not many studies on social mobility. So, if we want to understand social mobility in Africa, how do we fill in the gaps? We have used education and occupational status of parents and children as a proxy of the standard of living. Using the information for 70 million people from 28 African countries, reaching back as far as 100 years, we came to 3 findings. First, in Africa, economic opportunities in terms of educational attainment have improved over time. Africans born in the mid-90s from uneducated parents have a 60% likelihood of completing at least primary school compared to the mid-40s when that rate was only 20%. However, in terms of occupational attainments, the picture is more gloomy. 80% of children whose parents work in traditional, low-skilled agricultural jobs are likely to follow in their parents' footsteps. If you put these facts together, it shows us that while educational mobility has improved, occupational mobility remains low. In short, this increased educational level has not translated into better jobs for a lot of people working their family farm. Our second finding was that it matters where you are born. There are huge disparities between countries and within countries. For example, in Botswana and South Africa, 75% of children achieve a higher level of education than their parents. But in Ethiopia and Mozambique, this rate is lower than 30%. In terms of occupational status, in Botswana and South Africa, 50% have a higher job status than their former parents, but in Ethiopia and Mozambique, fewer than 5% have better jobs. There is also a huge rural-urban divide, with people living in cities having better educational and occupational opportunities. The gender gap, while substantial in the 40s, has been narrowing over recent years. And the third finding was, despite the educational gains in recent decades, the upward job mobility of educated people has declined among younger Africans. In fact, the chances for well-educated individuals of getting a better job than the previous generations have declined since the 20s. So where is the disconnect between education and occupation? Why is not educational mobility becoming occupational mobility? It is linked to 2 factors. There are a higher number of graduates, but the job market is not growing to meet them. These graduates are also facing a mismatch between what the market needs and their skills. And that comes down to policy and market failures. Upward mobility seems to be positively associated with access to infrastructure, stability, and social spendings. Countries with higher level of public education spending, more social protection, and better infrastructure quality tend to have higher rate of social mobility. On the other hand, countries affected by conflict and those rich in natural resources tend to have lower mobility. So, knowing the data trends and the social gaps they point to, how can Africa better take advantage of its educational progress? First, targeted policies to tackle the rural-urban divide, narrow the gender gap, and shrink regional inequalities are essential. Sustaining education spending and investing in human physical capital will be critical to bridge the existing gaps and create and share opportunities with all citizens. Second, investing in basic infrastructure could enhance education and employment and help lift households out of poverty. Third, good governance and social policies can create educational and employment opportunities for children. African countries should therefore promote good governance and enact policies aiming to extend social protection coverage and reduce the risk of violent conflict. There is an African proverb that says, we desire to give two things to our children. The first one is roots, the other is wings. That is why we need prompt and appropriate actions to ensure that these roots and wings are in place for better economic and social opportunities and a bright future for African children.
Thank you for watching Africa Good Morning. Let's get into our economic news. African Union had to push Russia, Ukraine to unblock grain exports. Senegal's president and African Union chairman Macky Sall said on Wednesday that when he visits Russia and Ukraine in the coming weeks, he will push them to unblock exports of grains and fertilizers to avoid widespread famine. Africa is suffering from disruption in food supply and soaring prices of basic food and risk disastrous consequences if the situation endures, Sall said during a conversation with a philanthropist Mo Ibrahim at the Ibrahim Governance Forum. Nearly half of Africa's 54 countries rely on Russia and Ukraine for wheat imports, according to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. Russia is also a major supplier of fertilizers to at least 11 countries, Sall said.
Now, Russia prepares to seize Western firms looking to leave. Russia is advancing a new law allowing it to take control of the local businesses of Western companies that decide to leave in the wake of Moscow's invasion of Ukraine, raising the stakes for multinationals trying to exit. The law, which could be in place within weeks, will give Russia sweeping powers to intervene where there is a threat to local jobs or industry, making it more difficult for Western countries to disentangle themselves quickly unless they are prepared to take a big financial hit. The law to seize the property of foreign investors follows an exodus of Western companies such as Starbucks, McDonald's, and Brewer AB InBev, and increases pressure on those still there. It comes as the Russian economy, increasingly cut off due to Western sanctions, plunges into recession amid double-digit inflation. Italian lender UniCredit, Austrian bank Haifa, the world's biggest furniture brand IKEA, fast food chain Burger King, and hundreds of smaller firms still have businesses in Russia. Any that try to leave face this tougher line. IKEA, which has paused all operations in Russia, and it was closely following the development. Haifa said it was assessing all options, including a carefully managed exit. UniCredit declined to comment, while Burger King did not immediately respond to a request for comment.
KPMG fined £3.3 million over Rolls-Royce audit. KPMG will pay a fine of £3.3 million to the accounting regulators after accepting failures in its audit of Rolls-Royce, the British jet engine manufacturer that paid £500 million settlement after bribery allegations. The accountancy firm received a severe reprimand from the regulator. The Financial Reporting Council and a firm will have to commission an independent review into the effectiveness of its policies. It is the fourth significant fine the firm has paid this year. Anthony Skye, the KPMG partner who led the audit, will also pay a $112,500 fine and receive a severe reprimand ahead of his retirement from the firm in September. The fines for the firm and Skye were reduced to $4.5 million and $150,000 respectively. Because they cooperated with the regulators. KPMG will also pay the regulators' cost for the investigation.
Now in South Africa, if a bank fails, up to 100,000 rand in your account will be guaranteed as part of a new scheme. The South African Reserve Bank is in the process of establishing a deposit insurance scheme that will repay the first 100,000 rand in a bank account if that bank goes under. On Wednesday, during the presentation of South Africa's Financial Stability Review, SARB Governor Lesetja Kganyago announced that the planned new corporation for deposit insurance will operate more like an insurance scheme. The corporation will be administered by the SARB. Every bank will have to provide 100,000 rand insurance per depositor. This will ensure that depositors get a fast payout if a bank fails without having to wait for the liquidation process. However, anything above 100,000 rand per depositor per bank will be lost. If a customer has multiple accounts with the bank, they will only get a maximum of 100,000 rand from that bank. In the past, when a bank failed, the South African government gave each depositor 50,000 rand, but it was a lengthy process. This happened during the collapse of Sambo, Regal Bank, VBS Mutual Bank, and other smaller banks that went into curatorship. When the SARB placed VBS under curatorship, it was already in advanced stages of reviewing the amount of depositor protection from 50,000 rand to 100,000 rand.
All right, let's have a look at our economic indicators.
And now for our sports news. Whether you like cricket, rugby, football, whatever it is, let's take a look at our sports news with Ari Hochad.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, and it's starting off with tennis news again. It's Roland Garros. It's a highlight of the tennis, one of the 4 highlights of the tennis season. It is one of the 4 majors. It is on clay in Paris. News from the tournament is that in the women's side of the draw, there's been quite a few highly seeded players that's fallen out, and in the men's it's going a little bit better for the higher seeds in week 1. Let's go to the women's side first, and it is Maria Sakkari. She's the latest highest seed, the 4th seed, Maria Sakkari of Greece. She's out of the tournament. She lost to Karolina Moskova, and she's from the Czech Republic. Also Emma Raducanu from Great Britain, that's also out. She was the number 12 seed, and she lost in the second round to Alessandro Sansnovic, and it is then Raducanu that's out of the tournament. Then also Karolina Pliskova, and she is the number 8 seed, also lost in the second round. So lots of the higher seeds that is out of the tournament, and it is Pliskova that lost against a French player that they will do obviously well with all the hometown support, and she lost to Lydia Jean-Jean, and she is from France. On the men's side as well, there were 2 high seeds that had a big scare in the second round, and that was Stefanos Tsitsipas and also Carlos Alcaraz. Both of them had a match point against them, and they won in 5 sets to go through to the 3rd round. Sebastian Korda, he had a good win. He's the 27th seed. He beat the local Hero Richard Gasquet. He beat him in 3 sets. And then the highest seeds, the top 4 seeds, top 5 seeds is still in the tournament. Also Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, Daniel Medvedev and Alexander Zverev. All of them still in the tournament and playing in the 3rd round. On to cycling news. It's still the Giro d'Italia that's happening at the moment. They were still in the mountains, and some of the stages that follow now will be more for the sprinters. It was stage 17, and the result of that stage was that Santiago Buitrago, he won. He is from Colombia, just 22 years old. He won in a time of 4 hours, 27 minutes and 41 seconds. Gijs Lemreiser was second, 35 seconds after him, and then Jan Hurt second, 2 minutes 25 seconds behind the leader or the winner. Still, the general classifications is led by Richard Carapaz, and he's from Ecuador, and he leads by 3 seconds to Jay Hindley, and that is after Carapaz came in 4th in stage 17. Now we continue with some soccer news, and it is the Champions League final that will be played on Saturday. That is Liverpool playing Real Madrid. News from Liverpool is that Mo Salah, one of the key strikers of the club, said that he is for sure going to stay with the club. That was after there was big statements that he was going to leave the club after this year. His contract goes up till June 2023. Also, Sadio Mane said he'll decide on his future after the Champions League final. His contract also ends in June 2023. Let's close off today's international sports news with Formula One news. It is this weekend the Monaco Grand Prix. News from the track, or news from leading up to the weekend, is that they predict rain at this stage. So it's still a few days to go, but the prediction is for rain. That's going to make it very difficult in Monaco if there is rain indeed. And it seems like at the moment it's going to be a 3-horse race for pole position. That's very important in the road race in Monaco. So it's again going to be Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes-Benz that's going to try and get the pole position. So that is the Monaco Grand Prix. That's going to be this Sunday in Monaco. That's the international sports news for now. I hope you have a great sporting day, and we talk again tomorrow. Goodbye.
Thank you for staying with Africa Good Morning. Now, before we sign off, let's take a look at the highlights from today's broadcast, just in case you missed them. 11 babies killed in Senegal hospital fire. 75 people missing, 1 dead after migrant boat sinks off Tunisia. Gambian government plans to prosecute ex-dictator Jammeh. Africa Day calls for Africa to free itself from donor dependency. Pfizer offers to sell medicines at cost to poorest countries. African Union head to push Russia, Ukraine to unblock grain exports.
Thank you very much for watching our show this morning. Please visit our website. It's called One Up To for more content that you definitely love to see. We also are on Facebook and Twitter. That is at Africa Good Morning. Please leave your comments. We absolutely love hearing from you. Please do remember that Africa Good Morning screens on DSTV channel 285 as well as Gotv channel 94. And on that note, from all of us here in studio, it's all our love, all our light, and happy weekend.